Hi, I'm Nicola. I'm an Australian living in Seoul, South Korea with my husband, who is Korean, and our children. And today I'm going to talk about preparing for winter. Now, unlike Australians, Koreans are not shocked when there's winter every year. I remember some comedian making a joke about that every year, once again, Australians are shocked that they have a winter. Australian homes are really not built for winter. There's been a lot of stuff about how cold Australian homes are lately in the media. But thankfully in Korea, we are well aware that winter is coming and there's a bunch of things that we need to do before it comes. So you might be wondering, like, as an Australian, how do I cope with Korean winter? Oh, for those that don't know, Korean winter is really cold. Like, summer can be very hot and humid, you know, it's usually 35 degrees in summer. And then in winter, it gets down below zero. I'm gonna talk in Celsius. Sorry, Americans, but everybody else is using Celsius. It gets below zero and it can be, you know, sort of like 10 degrees and below, and then it'll get below zero. And then there'll be some weeks where it's like -10 or like -15, like depending where you are, or even colder than that. So this is like a huge extreme difference in temperature. So Koreans are very aware that soon it's going to get absolutely freezing. As an Australian, I can cope with this, and the reason I can cope is because of Korean heating, the ondul heating, which is the underfloor heating. So it's very warm inside. Whereas I think about Australian winter, depending where you are or what type of house you've got, but houses are sort of not insulated for winter well, and they can be very cold. Like, you might just have one room that's being heated, and I remember just being so miserable in Australian winters. Of course, Australia's such a big country. If you have the top and it's like always in the 30s, of course, but like I live further down and we have winters and they're just kind of wet and awful. Also, I quickly just want to talk about some of the misconceptions that Australians can have about Korea in winter. These are not all my misconceptions, but just things I've heard. Okay, first one is that if it's this cold, you're cold all the time. And no, inside is usually very warm and we're wearing t-shirts inside. One of the things I hate about Australian winter is having to wear a jumper, a sweater, inside all the time, or even like bundled up more inside. In Korea, summer clothes inside is fine. The second misconception I've seen Australians have is that if it's below zero, then it must be snowing. No, actually, a lot of Korea doesn't snow that much. Like, some winters in Seoul, there's been very, very little snow, and even then, like, it snows for a few days and then it all melts and it goes away. Like, it's not one of those countries where it snows and the snow is there all winter. And actually, a lot of the time it has to get warm enough to snow. So like when it's -15 degrees and there's no snow on the ground, it's not going to snow then. It has to actually get up to around zero for it to actually snow. But some Australians have this conception, well, if it's this cold, it must be snowing. It's like, no, like the snow is a separate thing from the cold. And the third one is that I've seen Australians have is that if you have a really big coat, then you're fine. So, you know, sometimes people will say to me, I'm gonna go to Korea, and I'll be like, this is the middle of winter, you need to be aware of that. And they'll always say, oh, but I have a big coat. And it's like, no, it's more than that. It's like very cold weather tires you out. You can't be outside for that long. It's going to affect your plans when you're traveling in Korea. And if you haven't been in it, you don't understand how tired like the cold weather can make you. Like, you can have a big coat and everything like that, but you also need to be aware of that if you're planning on traveling around Korea at that time. I also have to mention that it's been a very warm autumn, climate change. So it's only been the past 2 days, or when I'm recording this, that we've actually had cold temperatures. We had tops of 19 last week, and then this week it's like, I think yesterday was a top of 5 and today's like a top of 10 maybe. So it's like now we're definitely getting into the cold, but climate change, it's been unusual. So as a mum, what are some things that I'm actually doing for my children? Of course, children can't be outside as much in these type of winters. So we have a balcony out there that is set up with play stuff, and the kids can play out there until it drops down to about 0 degrees, and then it gets too cold to be out there. So I've had to think about rearranging things a little bit, what I can do in here. And Jisoo is almost 3, and so I thought she and Yule as well might like to have some different toys inside. So I researched some play kitchens for her, and that was a journey. Okay, this is the kitchen we've got to put together, Yule. Are you going to help Mummy? Yes. You're going to help Mummy? People said it takes a long time, so we've got to try and do it in, we've got about a bit over 2 hours. Hopefully that'll be okay.
No, it won't.
And then it'll be surprise for GC. What are you doing? So the first thing we're doing is the things that are on top here are all the little things like the sink stuff and that. So you put them over there and we'll get them out when we need to, okay?
They did it very well.
They wrapped it very well, did they?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What's that one? Cooktop?
Cooktop.
Cooktop. Still haven't seen any instructions. I don't want to start getting this. Where are the instructions? This was the box 1. You'd think it'd be in box 1, but maybe it's in box 2. You're gonna have lots of boxes to play with and make things. Yay!
Okay, we're going now.
You filming, Mummy?
Okay, we need to get this
It's
up.
another box inside another box. Oh. Oh.
Yeah, another box and another box.
Okay, I'm gonna need your help here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Pause.
Okay, we have instructions. Whew. This looks complicated. Do you think we can do it? No? Okay. Slowly, we're doing. You've got those screws for me, put them in for me. Thank you. We're up to step number 2. Woohoo! So, this is taking forever. The instructions are difficult and things are difficult, but we can do it, can't we, you? Okay, it's the next day and I'm still going. I've done these at least. Yeah, not easy instructions. Yule is at school at the moment, but hopefully I can get this done before the kids come home. Okay, I think I've done it. Oh my gosh. And then I realized that all these need batteries in them. So I had to get the batteries, see? Turn on this type of thing. Literally back-breaking work. Okay, done. Just in the nick of time before I've got to get Yule and he can help me tidy up stuff, organize stuff, and then we can surprise Jisoo. Oh, my back hurts so much. What's this? What's this?
Mom, I want to play.
You want to play? This is for you.
It's the present for Jisoo.
There's a present for Jisoo.
Can I try it?
Yeah, of course you can try it. It's for you. Do you want to have a look?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Wait. We press it all the buttons like this.
Okay, you can press the button, see what it does.
No.
No, you don't want to press the button?
Today we need to wash our hands.
Oh, we do need to wash our hands. So we go wash our hands first. Oh, what there? What happens if you turn this one? Whoops. That's better. And we turn off. Okay, you're going to cook something? Look, you can get some ice. Opa show you?
Wow.
Is there your toys in there? And look, watch Opa show you this one. Oh, there's some ice. Oop.
Like that.
Yeah, Opa will show you how to put in the back there.
Some hot bread.
Yeah, some hot bread would be great.
It's hot. Ew. Hey.
What about the other button? Can you press the other button?
They were close.
What about this one?
So of course, one of the things you need to think about is clothing, and you really need to think about, yes, you have the really big coat, but you need to have, I guess, what is called long underwear. In Korea we say neebok. And if you have kids, of course, every year kids are bigger. Like, so you pull out all last year's winter clothes and like, what still fits? What can we still use? And what do we need to buy? Thankfully in Korea, the like ordering stuff delivery is super quick, like here the next day. And so I bet the past few days, everybody has been ordering neebok. I know that Hugh has been ordering more neebok for himself as well. So in Australia, what I would wear for a winter coat would be an autumn coat in Korea. So you have to have the very big coat, and it's worth having the good quality ones. Like some years I've had one that hasn't been as good quality, and it's like, no, it makes such a difference that they have whatever it's in it, the feathers or whatever, that type of thing. Like you have to have that really big puffy coat. In Korea they call that long padding. So yeah, everything's padded like that, and that keeps you warm. If you're young, you might have the short padding if you're not feeling the cold as much, and so it's more fashionable to have a shorter, like still a very big padded jacket, but you have it shorter. And there's more colors in those ones, which always annoyed me. Like most of the long padding ones are black, but I do have a pink one, and it gets dirty really quickly, so I understand why everybody just has a black. And of course, winter boots, especially if there's going to be snow, you need like good boots. And you may also be wearing a mask in winter as well. And also the air can be worse in Seoul, so you might have a mask for that reason. But I mean, there's winter ones, so it's like a thicker mask that you can wear. It's funny, you know, sometimes I've posted pictures in winter and we've had masks on, and people have been like, why are you wearing a mask outside? You know, I'm like, this is not because of the pandemic. This is just keeping our faces warm. And also leading up to winter, you want to have as many days outside as possible. So I've made sure I've had my kids go out as much as possible, and those last days of autumn, so they can enjoy it. So as I mentioned before, there is the ondol heating in Korea, which is the underfloor heating. So I really like this because it's not hot air blowing on me, it's just a sort of heat coming up from the floor, and you'd be not even sort of like that aware of it. It's just that, you know, your apartment feels warm and it's nice. A lot of older Koreans like to sleep directly on the floor and directly on that heat. But if you haven't grown up doing that and you come to Korea and maybe you're doing like a hanok stay or something like that, you might actually find that uncomfortable. Not the bedding uncomfortable, but just being on heat that much. A lot of people find that they actually can't sleep like that. So yes, you might hear all the wonderful things about the ondol heating, but if you haven't grown up in Korea, you might not want to sleep directly on an ondol floor. The other thing to think about if you are in Korea is that some things, if you leave them on the floor, might get ondoled, and that's not a Korean term. It's like a foreigners will say that, like something get ondoled, because it's warm. If you leave some food, like you have chocolate or something in a bag, if you've got candles, if you've got something that really shouldn't be getting hot. I left a Kindle when we lived in the countryside. I left my Kindle on the ondol floor, and then it didn't work anymore. So as you're coming into winter, you need to think about this. What are the things that's in contact with the floor? And not all sections of the floor are hot, like it's just wherever the thing goes that makes the heat. But just be aware of where it is extra hot, and don't leave certain things that shouldn't be in contact with heat. Something also to be aware of is that different apartments are going to be different in sort of like climate control. So what I mean is that some apartments, or the smaller like flats, we would say in Australia, but in Korea they call it like a villa, they can get very humid in winter, and you have problems with condensation on the windows, and you might have a mold problem. And then other apartments can be very dry because the winter air is very dry. So it's not the same for everybody. So like for us in this apartment, we need to have a lot of humidifiers in winter because the air is really dry. But at our previous apartment, it got really humid, so we had to be careful about that. And I think we actually used a dehumidifier through winter. So it just really depends how an apartment is built. Also in Korea, you will find the subways to be overheated and some buildings to be overheated, and you need to take your coat off. So some people will take their coats off before they get on the subway, especially if you're crushed in with a lot of people. And then you might go into some buildings and there's no heating in the corridors, and there'll be a window open, so it might be -10 degrees and there's just air coming in. There's a lot of bathrooms that are like that, so you might go from like a really hot place, oh I need to go out to the bathroom, oh it's out in the corridor, I'll go out here, oh the window is open and it's freezing. Like there's such a huge difference in temperature if you are, you know, doing stuff outside of your apartment, if you're going into different buildings and different workplaces. And then also if you're wearing nerbok, which is like the heat tech long underwear, and then you're going into a very heated place, you're going to get the winter sweats where you are too hot but you can't do anything about it because it's literally the long underwear. So I don't even wear it that much anymore. Like I just kind of rely on my really big coat, and I know that I can take my coat off if I'm overheated somewhere. And you do have to be careful about being overheated because it can make you feel nauseous, it can make you feel sick. And trying to convince kids to put on big puffy jackets when it's warm inside so they can go outside is a nightmare. Like Yule is old enough now, like he understands, right? But like Jisoo, she's not even 3 yet. She's almost 3. This week, I've had to convince her to put clothes on because it's so warm inside. She's not even wearing clothes inside. She just has like the nappy diaper on. All the mums out there who know that live in a colder climate, that has a cold winter, you know, like to try to convince a toddler to put clothes on because it's so cold outside, like, oh, I can't even put it into words. So I did ask on Instagram if you guys have any questions for me. So Crystal asks, is snow on driveways or sidewalks cleared by residents of the building? Okay, so this is a little bit difficult because like Korea is set up in a way that like if you live in a Western country, it's probably going to look very different to what you're used to. And I think obviously like local councils put out salt on the roads if they know there's going to be snow. But most people are not living on ground level. There's usually commercial is on the ground level and then apartments are above it. Or you will have a cluster of buildings together and it's all residential, but it's a lot of people live there. So in those cases, you do see residents will clear snow, like often the older people do it. But for a lot of places, there's going to be a business at the front that is going to be clearing snow anyway. And like Seoul doesn't get a huge amount of snow. Like we don't get huge banks of snow like this. It will snow a little bit in winter, but like usually not that much. So I would say it's a combination of like there's probably local council stuff and then also residents doing stuff as well. Okay, what coats, outerwear you recommend, especially as someone from Brisbane? My sister lives in Brisbane, so I understand the going from Brisbane to coming to Korea in winter. Like yes, you need a very big coat. And I think in Australia, you like from Uniqlo maybe is one of the best places to get a big winter coat like that. And then yeah, you're also going to have to think about long underwear, hats, gloves, shoes that are really warm as well. It's difficult for people that live in a very warm climate to like come in winter like that. But also some people really enjoy it. Like they just enjoy being like in different temperature and different environment. Okay, and then I had a bunch of very similar questions. How do you go out with kids during winter? Do Korean children play outside a lot during winter? If so, how are they dressed? Curious because I'm determined to get my kids playing outside more this winter. What to do with toddlers when it's cold? Oh, okay. So it is very hard with kids in winter in Korea. A lot is going to depend on what the actual temperature is. So there can be a really big difference, like a big range. So if it's above zero, you know, it's okay to take them out. If it's then below zero, like, okay, one of the biggest issues in Korea is that old people will scold you so much if your kids are out in the cold, right? And this is kind of something that relates to the history and the culture of Korea. A lot of these older people, you know, they were born during the Korean War or before it, or, you know, they grew up after it. And yes, children died of the cold then, you know, it wasn't like today. They didn't have the padding technology that we've got now, like the clothing technology, or the way that we can keep kids warm now. And so old people get very concerned about children being out in the cold, and they will literally scold you as a parent if your child is out in the cold. And I feel like there's a lot of Korean parents that would take their kid out more to play if they weren't worried about being judged by other people. So I just think that when you see those days and the temperature is like a little bit warmer, like put your kid in the big coat and like go out and play when you can. And obviously when it's -15 you can't really. And then snow days, like we always try to get the kids out in the snow, because then you have an excuse. People can't scold you as much because there's snow, and of course kids want to play in the snow. And what do kids wear? So now this also depends on how cold it is. So if it's around 0 to 5, yes, still a big coat, hat, gloves and winter boots, but they might just have normal clothes underneath. Like you might not have to long underwear them up as much. But then when it is a day where it might be -10 or -15, yes, you have the extra pants, like the padded pants that go over their normal pants, especially if you got toddlers. So toddlers just look like a starfish, like like this, because there's these massive clothes on like that. But also we need to think about that, like kids don't get as cold as adults. Kids have what I think is called like more brown fat, which keeps them warmer. And of course it's really hard to explain this when old people are scolding you, oh, your kid is cold, blah blah blah, and your kids doesn't want to wear their jacket because they're not that cold. Kids don't get as cold as we do. And literally the other day Jisoo wanted to go out with like literally no sleeves, and I was just holding the jacket behind her walking. So if anybody like I'm trying to put the jacket on, please don't scold me. And then like what to do with toddlers when it's cold, and yeah, they have to be inside. So you have to think about what activities you can do with kids inside. You've kind of got to have a rotation of things. Like of course my kids have the things like Lego, and I get out the paints for them, and they do a lot of drawing and stuff like that during winter. But the good thing about Korea is Korea has kids cafes, and they're everywhere, or like the bouncing trampoline places. And so a lot of parents are just trying to go to them as much as they can, because kids can run around, they can get their energy out while being warm inside. Some of them can be really expensive, but there's also like really cheap ones around as well if you just want one that's just got trampolines or something like that. There's smaller ones around like that. And some of them will have like, you know, parents can sit down and have a meal as well while their kids play. It's not an option, you know, every day, but it's like at least on a weekend you can do that. And yeah, like I said, get your kids out on the days that it's not as cold, so they can at least run around then. I remember when Yul was still a toddler and he was in Ordinagip in daycare, and I think it was like maybe 0 or 1 degrees maybe. And he had a little friend at daycare, and I was at the park with Yul, and I was the only parent there at the park with Yul. And this little girl that was his friend, and her mom came, and the mom said that her daughter had said, let's go to the park. And the mum had said, there'll be nobody at the park to play with. And the little girl had said, Yul will be there. Yul and his mum will be there. And it was right, because I was the only one letting my kid play outside when it was that cold. And part of that is my Australianness of like wanting to be outside and wanting my kids to be outside as much as possible. But there's other Korean families that if they start seeing others are going to the park and oh, it's only this, the temperature's really low, but they see other people are outside, they will start coming out as well, because it's sort of given them permission now that they can take their kids out and their kids can run around. So I feel like through winter I'm just constantly checking the temperature, like when is it okay to take the kids to the park or down the river or that type of stuff. And you know, there's some weeks where you can't, every day is like so cold. That's why we're going to Australia for Christmas. But of course, if you're stuck here for winter, you're stuck here for winter. So it's important to take care of your mental health as well, because the days are shorter, the nights are longer, it's so cold. If you need to get a lamp that makes your mood better, all that type of stuff, you know, try to do that, because yeah, winter can be super long. Okay, let me know what else you would like me to talk about sometime. Bilingual video is coming, like especially with Jisoo, as she's the second child, and where her bilingual skills are at, but it's super hard to film her naturally and I've got to get the Korean side and then I've got to get the English side, but that might be the next video after this, we'll see. So please subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment and a like and all that type of stuff, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.